and welcome to the Neo News Today podcast. I'm your host, Dylan of Neo News Today. In episode 46 of the NNT pod, I had a chance to sit down and speak with Ivan Poon, the co-founder and CEO of Switcheo. Switcheo is a cross-chain layer 1 non-custodial exchange with more trading products looming on the horizon. As Switcheo was born out of a COZ dApp competition in 2017, we here at Neo News Today have been following the team's progress since day one. In this episode, Ivan and I talked about the differences in operating during a bull and bear market, traditional VC fundraising versus token offerings, building the standalone TradeHub chain, PolyNetwork, Flamingo, Neo3, and working with other ecosystems. So I hope you enjoy listening to this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. So obviously we've been covering Switcheo for a long time at Neo News Today, so I'm really excited to have you on the line with us today, Ivan. If we could...
excited to be here, and thanks for covering us for so long. I know you are a big fan of ours as well.
Yeah, totally. And something that's like really cool about Switcheo is it was born out of City of Zion dApp competition. But before we start going into the juicy details, for folks who might not have listened to a Neo News Today podcast or even heard of Switcheo before, could you just tell us a little bit about who you are, what Switcheo is, and maybe just a broad overview of your suite of products?
Right. So Switcheo is a decentralized exchange. We started on Neo long ago, and now we are kind of a cross-chain layer 1 DEX. Very soon we are going to move on to cross-chain derivatives trading on layer 2. So it's like a second generation exchange, and you'll be able to do not just spot trading in a non-custodial way, but also derivatives products like futures, options, and prediction markets, etc. Yeah.
So before we kind of like delve a little bit further into Switcheo, I think I just mentioned that your team was a project that was born out of a dApp competition in 2017, and you've survived these bull and bear boom bust markets, and not only have you managed to survive, but Switcheo is growing. So I'm just curious to hear a little bit about your insight as to what the differences are like in building a product during a boom cycle and during a bust cycle.
Yeah, well, I guess during the bust cycle or bear market, it's a lot more. It's harder on morale mainly, and you just got to stick to your guns, and keep the team motivated. So that's what we did, and thankfully we built Switcheo because we were traders. We traded a lot, not just in cryptocurrencies but in traditional finance, and I guess that helped us tide over the bear market as well, because we managed our treasury, I would say, somewhat prudently, and we managed to conserve our funds. And we managed to raise a little more when required, and they brought us to here today. I think we almost going to be 3 years soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So your original impetus for starting Switcheo as a non-custodial exchange was just the fact that you guys were traders. Why did you choose to go with non-custodial versus custodial?
We always believe in the non-custodial space, and that's actually what got us interested in cryptocurrencies anyway. We always believe that Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the cryptocurrencies should be not just freely transferred. It's not just about the transfer of money. It's also about the it's about being able to use it in any way that you want to, and that includes trading, hedging, using it as collateral, etc. And that's the reason why we decided to build DEX on Neo, correct? Because Neo came out with this pretty amazing blockchain. For their time, I think they were one of the few that actually wrote a full virtual machine on their own. Ethereum was basically the only other one. There were a lot of this is sidetrack a little. There were a lot of forks coming up that claim to be faster, etc. But at the end of the day, they used the EVM, so it was not interesting to us. So we decided that, hey, Neo has this pretty impressive blockchain, but when you actually like do tokens on it, you want to build applications on it. You go back to square one because there was no DEX. There was no way to trade tokens in a trustless manner. And back then, a lot of centralized exchanges didn't support the Neo blockchain, and so the tokens were just kind of not liquid, not there was no efficient market for it, and that's why we decided that, hey, let's do something for the community and let's fill this gap.
Yeah, and Switcheo definitely has fostered and built its own community. So I'm wondering, what are some of the unique characteristics of the Switcheo community, and how do you and your team kind of keep your finger on the pulse?
I guess it's really about being in the space, being in the market, and that's why we basically, I mean, we don't even put our white paper out there anymore because it's so different what we are doing from what we initially envisioned or initially set out to do, and that's because we are watching the market and trying to improve our not just our product but also refining our vision. And at the start, we started maybe a little small, but we quickly moved on to grander visions from cross index and now really a fully trustless and no custodial sort of financial market ecosystem or protocol. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I thought that, so first of all, congratulations on your recent fundraise from Defiance Capital and Three Arrows Capital. That's really great to start seeing outside entities that are within the blockchain space, but outside entities that have noticed Switcheo and have invested in it. So why did you and your team decide to go with a more traditional sort of VC raise versus conducting a public token offering or security token offering?
So for us, we already had a token way back then, right? And we didn't want to even though we were improving our product, expanding our product way beyond our initial goals, we didn't want to dilute the, the the tokens out there that's already held by the public, and that's actually the reason why we didn't want to basically create another token or even like inflate the token to raise more money. So our raise was just private and it's based on a small portion of our treasury. But yeah, that's about it.
Mm-hmm. And partnering with VC firms, whether they have 2 or 3 years experience or more, what are sort of the broader goals that this fundraise kind of has associated with it? What are the commonalities that you and your VC firms have kind of decided that you would like to take Switcheo forward?
Yeah, so a lot of basically in our most recent raise, we had a lot of interest, and we had to actually reduce the raise amount more than the participants wanted, and that was because 2 reasons. One is the previous reason we didn't want to. Everything we are raising is from our treasury of tokens, and the second thing was that we didn't want to do the sale for any random person. A lot of individuals tried to ride on the race, but at the end of the day, we do have a market for our token, and we were really looking for strategic partners or strategic players that could help us in the long run. So I think Three Arrows and Defiance, they are really strong in the derivative space and the DeFi space respectively. So that's why we were interested to basically take them on. Mm-hmm. And what we are hoping is that, and what they have actually provided us is not just insights into the market, but also in terms of helping us bootstrap the derivative markets that they'll be launching soon, including getting us linked up with market makers, etc. Yeah.
Something that I think has always stayed core to Switcheo's tenet
hmm
is this focus on decentralization. And recently, with the announcement of the Switcheo Development Fund, you and your team had noted that you're going to help bootstrap this fund with 3 million SWTH tokens. You're going to use future fees from transactions and other things on the TradeHub network to help fund this development fund. Now, I'm wondering, when you're partnering with traditional private VCs and you're also actively trying to decentralize your growth as much as possible, are there any sort of concerns or areas where there might not be an alignment when VC firms invest into an entity, but the entity is trying to decentralize?
Yeah, I think that there's no real conflict. At the end of the day, a lot of these strategic partners, they actually hold our tokens, and the upside for the token is really for it to be a independent protocol, a protocol that can exist with or without the core team here. And that's what the community tax that we actually started recently is for. Uh, I feel that we need to move towards a stage where everything's truly decentralized, not just in terms of the who's running the software, but also who's developing the software. Yeah, so I think it's in everyone's best interest, and it's a bit of chicken and egg thing. I think that as the protocol gets adopted more people will be interested in developing on it or for it, in a similar way that's happening with Ethereum now. So this, I think what we are doing is really just the initial stages, just the seed of what's to come, and the additional funding that we put into it is really to try to boost it or to kickstart this early on. Yeah,
And
so
I was just gonna kind of like add on to that. Obviously, Switcheo was born from the seeds of you and your founding team members, and as you kind of like let the baby grow and let its wings kind of foster its growth so that it can fly, there have to be some concerns potentially where you have to trust the community when you're having these developments come out. So how did your team kind of build in these fail-safe mechanisms to ensure the resiliency of Switcheo Development Fund, and that it's really going to be distributed towards the builders who are actually creating these products within the Switcheo ecosystem?
yeah, so this is actually always a concern for us, especially because a lot of our holders may not be experienced or as knowledgeable about what we are doing, or what we or they might not understand our vision as much. So and that's what I was alluding to just now in terms of like the chicken and egg thing. As the protocol develops and what it can do is shown very explicitly, then people will get the aha moment, and then they'll be more aligned in terms of what we are doing. So at the moment, not everything is fully decentralized on the protocol, and we do hold certain uh, admin permissions for that reason. For example, we can list certain markets, or we can add certain tokens without going through the whole governance vote. Um, and the idea here is that as the community gets more educated in how the protocol works and in what it should look like in the long run, then we can start removing this and really do a full decentralization of the protocol. Yeah.
Yeah, and very recently, Switcheo has taken the first steps in the process of architectural decentralization by adding 23 node validators. And Neo News Today is hosting what has been so far a really great series, the Know Your Validator series, where we're interviewing Switcheo validator nodes and just kind of hearing about their perspective. And so far from the conversations, we've had that passion for network security, safety, and decentralization has really shown through. Now, when The Switcheo roadmap dating back to late 2018 had on it the development of TradeHub, the development of a standalone matching order engine. Now, there was probably a lot of blockchains for you to examine by the time that it was time to start building TradeHub. So I'm just curious to learn a little bit more about why you chose to go with a Cosmos-based SDK over other options that were available at the time.
So our consideration at that time was really ease of development of the application layer. So we didn't want to deal with like building an actual blockchain. We just wanted a sort of replicating or the matching engine that anyone that is censorship resistant and trustless, non-custodial. So at that time, when we started building, Cosmos SDK was probably one of the fastest or the most advanced in terms of what they have. The other considerations were, of course, I think Graphene and maybe Polkadot. But at the time, Polkadot was still very in the very early alpha, and we were not sure if they would actually deliver. So I think because Cosmos actually managed to launch a fully working chain, and their development language was something that's easy to pick up. It's Golang as compared to Rust. We felt that that was a good fit for us. Other than that, I think we didn't consider any blockchain that couldn't do a block time of less than say 2 or 3 seconds, because we really envision a on-chain, on-the-matching, and on-chain settlement kind of system. So anything with more latency than that or higher block time than that would result in a experience that was unacceptable to us.
Mm-hmm. And so Switcheo, Ontology, and Neo were part of 3 teams that helped build an interoperability protocol called PolyNetwork. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, what was sort of the process of developing the PolyNetwork interoperability protocol? And since this is a Neo podcast, what did collaboration efforts with the Neo team look like while you guys were building that?
Yeah, so initially we wanted to do our own protocol for basically relaying the transactions from one chain to another, correct? But Neo was basically they're one of our investors, and they recommended trying to build this relay chain system together. And it turned out that was one of the better technical partnerships that we have done so far, and we managed to get the integration done pretty smoothly. So to be honest, a lot of development was on NGD side. We did contribute in terms of certain improvements in terms of how we can make the protocol more trustless, and also in terms of getting the Cosmos SDK integration up to speed. Yeah, so I think it's pretty impressive what we delivered. So far, I think on Flamingo's side, Neo's cross-chain, it's a layer 1 cross-chain kind of the app. They process quite a lot of value in terms of the cross-chain transactions, and we are hoping to actually process way more than them in a very short time. Yeah.
Awesome. I want to touch on Flamingo in a minute, but other than how the PolyNetwork protocol is currently used, are there any future use cases that you see how it can be used?
I think at the end of the day, it's really a cross-chain communication layer. Mm-hmm. So the how it can be used is actually kind of it's really an open question. It's open-ended. It just depends on what chains you want to use and what's the vision for your use case. So for example, for us, we think we can actually do pretty cool things with it, including atomic sort of cross chain swaps. So imagine a Uniswap but fully cross chain. And of course, for us, we are building DMAX on top of it, on top of TradeHub and the cross chain relay solution. So we will be able to tokenize or wrap Ethereum or Bitcoin or any other token, and then trade them on Switcheo TradeHub / DMAX.
Awesome. I just wanted to kind of like pick your brain a little bit about what it's like collaborating with different ecosystems. So like you've worked with Zilliqa, you've worked with Neo, you've communicated with the Cosmos team, you've communicated with Polkadot, you've spoken, and obviously you must have communicated with like Bitcoin and Ethereum developers as well, just to understand how their protocols can interact with TradeHub and all the things that you guys are working on. So I'm just curious, like what's like the main thing that you always notice is always a little bit different when you're dealing with different communities? Is it the structure of the people you communicate with? Is it the sort of documentation that's available, or just kind of like what's your experience?
Yeah, so I mean it really varies. And working with Neo and Zilliqa has been pretty awesome. I mean, at the end of the day, I think blockchain developers and blockchain companies, they're really nice people. They're really nice to work with. In Neo in particular, they have been always very supportive of what I've been doing, and they're really open to suggestions. So that's been pretty fun to and pretty awesome experience. Zilliqa wise, they launched their mainnet a lot later, and therefore the tooling is, in terms of development, the tooling is less. But they've been rapidly catching up, and they have a very supportive community as well. So I think we also have a on-chain DEX on Zilliqa called ZilSwap, and that was an initiative supported by the Zilliqa Foundation, Zilliqa Ecosystem Fund, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see as we kind of go further and further into our companies and our entities, surviving and thriving longer and longer, to start seeing all these different ecosystems communicate and collaborate. For example, Moonlight is working on a digital identity solution for Zilliqa as well. So we really get to start to see these really great interrelationships amongst different teams and different entities. You mentioned Flamingo a little bit earlier, and I wanted to just briefly touch on this because of, PolyNetwork made Flamingo and Flamingcom possible. So just what's your broad perspective of Neo making a play into the DeFi space, and what elements do you think are missing that can help the platform become a success?
I think it's a lot more well done than I would have expected, to be honest, because they built a lot of things from scratch, as opposed to say if you're going to do it on Binance Smart Chain or Tron, where you basically just need to fork you don't need to fork, it's just a copy and paste of the Solidity code. So the way they did it was pretty impressive, I would say. And I guess it's about how do you go one step further, like with this faster layer one blockchain. It actually opens you up to a lot more things. So it's really about innovation now. That they have certain assets. They have the important assets on the chain, and they have the important primitives on the chain. How do we innovate faster than whatever the Ethereum players are doing? I think that's about that's going to be the main differentiating factor, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So Neo 3 is eking closer and closer to its final milestone release of Preview 4 and eventually testnet and eventually mainnet next year. I'm curious to hear from Switcheo's perspective. Are you guys following Neo 3 development? And if you are, what are sort of the updates you're following mostly, and how will they impact Switcheo?
I used to be following it, but there's so many changes in the code base that it's really too hard to keep track of every single change at the moment. But in the general sense, we do understand the broad changes and the main goals of the protocol upgrade. I think overall it will make development a lot easier because certain aspects of it will be more similar to Ethereum. Neo was actually developed before I think Ethereum even launched their mainnet, and therefore now some of the learnings from Ethereum or other blockchains are being put into Neo 3. Yeah, other than that, I think they are trying to do a lot of native. They're going to Fed protocol road where there's a lot of native um, technology in the protocol itself for Oracle's file systems, yeah, decentralized file systems, etc. If they can pull it off, I think it'll be quite impressive. It'll be quite useful for newer developers. I think Ethereum failed at doing that. They tried to do Swarm and a bunch of other stuff. At the end of the day, that didn't really take off. So yeah, we'll see how Neo 3 goes. For us, we now mainly use Neo 3 as a secondary sort of blockchain for our token as well as liquidity pools. For as long as Neo 3 does the migration on our relay network, the Poly network, I think it doesn't really affect us in terms of being able to support the chain. Yeah.
Absolutely. And sort of wrapping up, you mentioned DMEX a little bit earlier, which is a margin and derivatives trading exchange built by the Switcheo team. So, can you just share a little bit about where that is in the development process and maybe what the community can look forward to in the coming quarter or so?
Yeah, so actually today, right now, probably when you release this, it will be already out. But today we are releasing the final build that will enable us to go live with trading spot markets, futures markets, and it also added the AMM modules. So this actually we spent like a couple months, 1 to 2 months more to actually develop this module to ensure that we really put all the best of what's in the DeFi space now into our protocol. So at launch, we will have AMMs running. We have an incentive scheme that can be enabled to really pull liquidity from the layer 1 protocols into Switcheo TradeHub and therefore DMEX.
Awesome. Well, I think I speak for anybody who's been following Switcheo and has been in the Neo community for a long time. We look forward to seeing what you guys release. The UI and UX is always super smooth. So I'm quite excited to see DMEX. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and join the Neo News Today podcast. It feels like it's been way too long that we haven't had you join. So I was like finally excited to have you come on now on episode 46 of the podcast.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Really excited to have you and everyone try out DMEX and Switcheo TradeHub when we launch.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much. Have a great day, and it was great to chat with you, Ivan.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Well, what did you think of that conversation? I really enjoyed hearing Ivan's point of view on Switcheo's VC fundraise, that the team reduced the raise amount from what the VC firms wanted, and why Switcheo didn't go with another token sale. Plus, it was nice to glean a little insight into what building during a bear market was like and how Switcheo's vision grew. And I appreciated learning more about Ivan's perspective on PolyNetwork, Flamingo, and the impending launch of Neo 3. To keep up to date with the latest in the Neo ecosystem, visit www.neonewstoday.com. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, and or Spotify. And leave a 5-star review if you feel that others should hear our content. Every subscription and review helps others learn more about the Neo News Today podcast and the Neo ecosystem. So, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the Neo News Today podcast, and we look forward to catching you next time.